Hello, a very good morning and welcome along to Ireland M on Virgin Media 1.
That's us. It is Tuesday the 23rd of August and we are with you until 10 a.m.
Coming up very shortly, where are Ukrainian refugees and students going to live once the academic year starts? We are going to be discussing this very shortly, coming up at 7:15.
If you're a student right now and a parent and you're not going to know where you're going until what is it?
The 2nd of September.
2nd of September. That's when the CEO
and college
results
starts 2 weeks after that.
I'd
It's
be
insane.
sweating.
Can you imagine? And you don't get into the course that you want to get into.
You have to go to a different college.
Trying to find accommodation, which there's none.
We want to hear from you
let
this
us
morning
know.
if you're in that situation. 0896 111 111. Also, if your current bank is leaving the market, there's a couple of them. We'll have consumer advice if you're looking to switch a little bit later on.
Now, my children are definitely out of their sleep routine.
What are you talking about?
So, when they go back to school, how are we going to do it? We're going to get some advice on that at 8:15.
That's we're going to be chatting to the Australian stand-up comedian and author Benjamin Stevenson pretty soon. He's got a HBO show coming out.
He sure does.
Yep.
Look forward to find out a bit more. Now, Derek, the weather oracle is out and about this morning. Derek, how are we getting on? Your big boat.
That's me, Tommy. Good morning, guys. Back at base. Yes, we're live here in Sallins in County Kildare this morning. It's a dry and settled start, and we will see showers feed up from the south. They're going to track in a northerly direction, so a little bit on the wet side out there today. But guys, I kind of dressed in pink, Tommy, as you mentioned there. Supposed to be kind of red, but we're almost there because I'm heading out to a strawberry farm here in County Kildare across Des Moines. So we're going to be taking you from kind of farm to fork over the next couple of hours. So lots to look forward to for County Kildare.
Delicious. And
Bring
then,
us back upon it.
yeah. I stopped at the side of the road.
Oh,
to
I'll
get
bring you
them a
back
couple of
20
weeks ago.
punnets.
I went
They're so
strawberry
good.
picking on my holidays this year. It's great crack.
Did you?
Kids loved it. Yeah, great thing to do.
Oh, back through the fields, very 1980s.
Yes,
I like
it
it.
was, actually.
Let's go over to the Virgin Media News Hub right now. Here is Rob O'Hanlon.
Thanks, Maureen. Good morning. Donald Trump's legal team has asked a federal judge to appoint a special master or independent legal official to ensure the Justice Department returns any of his private documents seized during the recent search of Mar-a-Lago. Trump's Florida resort was searched a fortnight ago as part of a criminal investigation into the alleged mishandling of federal records by the former US president. In the new lawsuit, Trump argues his constitutional rights were violated and that there may have been privileged materials seized. The Justice Department removed 11 sets of classified documents from Trump's home, according to documents unsealed by a judge last week. Police in Liverpool have launched an investigation after the fatal shooting of a 9-year-old girl on Monday night. Merseyside police say they attended at a house at 10 p.m. last night after reports that an unknown male had fired a gun inside the property. The young girl was taken to hospital in a critical condition and has since died. A man and a woman also suffered gunshot wounds during the incident. Now, the Secondary School Teachers Union, the TUI, says a severe teacher recruitment and retention problem is being exacerbated by the cost of living crisis. The union has called on the Department of Education to immediately confirm the reinstatement of an allowance payable to teachers appointed after 2012, formerly known as the HDIP allowance. TUI President Liz Farrell has warned that schools are experiencing alarming difficulties in hiring teachers across a wide range of subject areas as schools return this week. In Argentina, prosecutors have asked a judge to sentence the country's vice president, Cristina Fernández, to 12 years in prison for corruption. Fernández is accused of leading a criminal conspiracy that irregularly awarded more than 50 public works contracts to a friend and ally. Prosecutors say the alleged fraud cost the country roughly $1 billion. Fernández, who was president of Argentina from 2007 to 2015, before becoming vice president in 2019, has denied all charges against her. Ukraine has banned rallies in major cities to mark Independence Day tomorrow amid concerns Russia may escalate attacks to mark the anniversary. Tomorrow also marks 6 months since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It comes amid serious concerns about ongoing shelling near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Speaking in New York last night on his return from Ukraine, the UN Secretary General described the situation as critical.
The same commitment to dialogue and results must be applied to the critical situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. I reaffirm that the United Nations has in Ukraine the logistics and security capacities to support the mission of the International Atomic Energy Agency from Kyiv to Zaporizhzhia. And we continue the relentless search for peace in Ukraine and across the globe in line with the United Nations Charter and international law.
In the UK, summing up arguments in the case involving Ryan Giggs will continue today. The former Man United star is accused of assault and using controlling and coercive behaviour against his former partner. He denies all charges. Our news correspondent Zara King is in Manchester.
Former Manchester United football star Ryan Giggs will return here to Manchester Crown Court this morning to continue to face charges in relation to his relationship with former partner Kate Greville. The 3 charges, the first of which relates to an allegation of coercive and controlling behaviour, while the other 2 charges relate to an allegation of assault against Kate Greville and an allegation of assault against her sister Emma Greville. Summing up their case yesterday, the prosecution said that the 999 call made by Emma Greville on the night of the 1st of November 2020 was significant. And they said that Ryan Giggs was somebody who knew how to hurt Kate Greville, to demean and to undermine her. It is the prosecution's case that this model professional footballer was a polite paragon of public behaviour, but a very different man in private. Now, separately summing up its case, the defence went on to say that Ryan Giggs is not on trial for being a heartbreaker. His defence case saying that he is not on trial for flirtation, being a womaniser, an adulterer, a liar or a cheat. But his barrister saying that if they were crimes, he probably would be guilty of most of them. But it is the defence's case that Kate Greville is lying, and they say she has lied from the very beginning. The judge will continue summing up here at the court later this morning.
In the US, heavy rain has caused flash flooding across parts of Texas. Streets have flooded and cars have been submerged across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where at least 7 inches of rain fell, following months of being dried by 100-degree temperatures and almost no precipitation. The lake's concrete spillway was engulfed by a torrential flow. And NASA has released new images of the solar system's biggest planet. Photos taken with the James Webb Space Telescope captured Jupiter's northern and southern lights, its swirling polar haze, and its great red spot, a storm big enough to swallow Earth.
For car insurance, van insurance, or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Thank you, Anne-Marina. Very good morning to you at home, or if you're indeed streaming online on the player, whatever part of the world you may be watching. And we're coming to you live here from the stunning Salons here in County Kildare. We're along the banks of the Royal Canal, or the Grand Canal here this morning. Coming up in the next wee while, we're heading out the road to the McCarthy Family Farm, and we're going to be checking out their strawberry production. So that's all to come in the next wee while. Anyway, let's take an opening look at weather together now with Alan Fraser on cameras this Tuesday morning. And I have to say, it's a dry and settled start here for the Lily Whites, but we are seeing showers through parts of Cavan and into Offaly, parts of Westmeath, not escaping either through Castlepollard, just getting hit right about now. But elsewhere, a good deal of cloud cover now in those light to moderate southwesterly winds. Now, right across today, in fact, we're going to see a system feed up from the south, bring you with its showers. So that's going to track in a northerly direction, landing into the northwest towards the back end of the day. But in behind it, a nice improvement with good bright spells on the cards. Top valleys as well, warming up to about 17 to 22 degrees. Finally then, tonight it looks like a showery one into northern spots. That rain will clear out. In behind it, we're going to see that mixture of cloudy and clear spells with some passing drizzle and a touch of mist as well to feed its way into your Wednesday morning, with overnight lows back to 8 to 13 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in Salons in County Kildare at the moment. We'll catch you back live at 7:35.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote.
Imagine you're asleep on one of the barges. Derek's just outside.
Is he gone yet?
Like,
I really need to get to work,
have a
but I
shower
can't get
here.
changed.
Derek's camera peeping through there. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We're going to start with the Irish Times. Its headline: Charity sees surge in calls over food price inflation. St Vincent de Paul is expecting a record number of people to seek its help this year as the cost of living crisis intensifies.
Cost of home heating oil falls, but bills still double in the past year. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. Householders filling up their oil tank for the winter will have to pay hundreds of euro more for their home heating oil. It has emerged.
The Examiner leads with ISME impose windfall tax on energy firms. Finance Minister Paschal Donohoe must impose windfall taxes on energy firm businesses. Leaders have warned after gas prices in Europe spiked 15% higher yesterday, hitting record new levels.
The Sun leads with kick to death over pub row. A young man has died in hospital after he was seriously injured in a late night attack outside a Kildare pub.
The Star leads with that same story. Their headline, too many punches to nail killer, and our thoughts are with the family of Dylan McCarthy this morning.
Desperate. The Herald goes the same story. Their headline, attack victim dies of injuries.
For something different, surge in credit union loans for back to school is the top story on the Daily Mail. Loan applications to credit unions are soaring as cash-strapped parents struggle to cover back to school expenses amid the cost of living crisis.
And finally, the Mayor goes with utter madness. Hard-hit Irish consumers face paying more for dairy products and fish as wholesale costs skyrocket. Figures were revealed yesterday. Where does that end?
I honestly don't know who this world is for and who can afford to live in it. And now, up next, the future looks uncertain and this is mad, as thousands of Ukrainians and college students, they're going to be left without accommodation.
Yeah, if you're in a situation like this, we'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch. 0896 111 111. Ireland is back shortly. Now, every September, parents and students are left frantically looking for college accommodation. In recent years, it has become impossible.
This year, Ukrainian refugees are getting caught in the accommodation crisis crossfire.
So we're joined now by John Lannon, CEO of Doris, and Beth O'Reilly, President of the Union of Students Ireland. To discuss, Beth, we'll come to you in just a second. John, first of all, listen, we've heard that I think there's 2,500 Ukrainian refugees being moved out of student accommodation this month and another 2,000 next month. I mean, well, I suppose, first of all, where are they going to go?
Good morning, and that's a good question. First of all, I guess we should say that 48,000 people from Ukraine have arrived in Ireland since the outbreak of the war there in February. It's actually 6 months on Wednesday since that happened, and 75% of them have needed state accommodation. That's 36,000 people, in addition to the other asylum seekers that are coming from war and persecution in other parts of the country. So many have been using student accommodation. The Ukrainians that have been talking to us and Doris are very grateful for that student accommodation, but it is always only for the summer. And now they're being moved, and there's been moved to very temporary accommodation again. They're being moved to places like Garmanstown and Ballyogan, which is very temporary. And for them, that's very traumatizing and very difficult. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of instability, and it's re-traumatizing.
But, John, we knew that this was going to happen. We always knew that students were coming back in September to go to college. So was there ever a plan in place about where Ukrainian refugees were going to go? Or was there some thought in the back of people's minds that, the war would be over, people would be going home? Because, we always knew September was the cutoff point.
We did, and we'd have to say that officials in the Department of Children have been working flat out every day of the week, I'd imagine, trying to find accommodation for Ukrainians and other refugees as they arrive in the country. But the problem is that we haven't seen a mid or long-term plan for what's going to happen. At the moment, as we look into the future, we see that there's an over-reliance on hotel rooms, and hotel rooms are unsuitable for families for anything more than a short stay, and they lead to other problems as well. We're also seeing a significant lowering of standards across the board when it comes to the quality of accommodation. So there are other options that could and should have been explored, like bringing more vacant properties into use, incentivizing people to make their holiday homes available. There has been talk of modular homes and pledged accommodation in the community. But as we look into the future, as I said, there are a lot of questions about the mid to long-term planning.
I mean, listen, and these are the questions that everybody's asking, and where is the joint up thinking, the plan in this? John mentioned, Beth, about a lot of uncertainty for the refugees, but I mean, you're head of the Students' Union, you must be getting calls on a daily basis, because there's 4,500 places available now, or hopefully going to be freed up. I mean, is that going to be enough?
I don't think so. I mean, given the uncertainty that first years especially have, given the fact that the Leaving Cert results were delayed, we've got about 2 weeks between you finding out where you go to college and having to find a place to live for the year. I know people who've been looking since March and they still haven't found anywhere to live. So for first years, it's incredibly uncertain, and we know the situation's just going to continue to get worse.
Beth, John said there that he's noticing a lowering of standards when it comes to accommodation that's available. What are you seeing when it comes to students? Because it feels like it's on very broad ends of the spectrum, that there is luxury student accommodation that no one would need. And then stuff like I saw Rory Hearn, the lecturer from Maynooth yesterday, like there's kips out there that they're throwing 3 and 4 people into a room.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that we're so reliant on the private market means that we have both ends of the spectrum. We have the luxury student accommodation complexes that cost about £1,000 a month. They have video game rooms and bowling alleys, but like students don't need that. We just need a place to stay. But then you also have landlords that are taking advantage of the situation that students are in, and they're packing 7 students into a house that's meant for 3 people and charging them €700 a month for it. So the fact that we don't have enough affordable purpose-built student accommodation means that people on both ends can cash in on students who are just desperate for a place to live.
With students with only 2 weeks to try and find a place to live, they'd have to go to be there for the first week. There's talk of them have to turn up in tents and sleep in their cars. Do you actually think that it could come to that?
I think that a large majority of students have considered booking out hostels for the first few weeks in college, which is a disgraceful situation for them to be forced into. We also have a lot of students that are going to have to commute, and some commutes can be up to 5 hours each way. So actually, you know, engaging in your college education and learning, which is what you're in college to do, is going to be a lot more difficult when you're commuting for 5 hours just to get to campus. So for the first few weeks, it's going to be incredibly tough on students that are just starting out.
Wait, when it comes to this, because I always remember the stress, you know, of trying to find a place when you were going to college and kind of going, oh God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But it's never been like this. The last 5 years, let's take the pandemic out of it, it's been a whole different ball game. Obviously, college places have increased. There are more students now. Are we expecting too much? Like, are there college students who are like, I'm not going to go into digs, I want the real experience, I don't want to be living with families? Because, you know, that's certainly something that definitely happened for decades before. Are digs a thing that people don't want, or are they coming back?
Well, I guess digs were always presented as a short-term solution to the fact that we just don't have enough student accommodation. So that's how they were initially marketed, and it's come to the point now where they're being seen as a permanent solution to the problem. The government continuously brings up the need for people to rent out their homes for digs, but the reality is lots of students do find digs less attractive because there's no rental protections. As a tenant in digs, you have no certainty about where you'll be staying one night to the next. If you're, you know, in an owner-occupied house, you have no rights as a tenant.
And let's be honest, you need someone sound. Like,
Exactly.
you know, it can be, you know, you can only use the kitchen between 9 and 9:05.
Yeah,
you know.
there's a lot of
whatever
rules.
you can at the minute. John, can I come back to you on this as well? I mean, we're hearing the situation for students, but of course you're from the Ukrainian side and the refugees side. I mean, you mentioned the huge number of Ukrainian refugees who have come into the country, and I suppose how happy they are to be welcomed in the way they have been. But when we're seeing the situation in the housing market in Ireland, are more refugees being welcomed into the country, or what's the situation going forward?
So the response of the Irish people and of the community and voluntary sector, and indeed many organs of the state, has been very positive. And we have quite rightly opened our doors and said they'll remain open for people who are arriving from Ukraine. But we believe the government needs to do more. They need to move from continual crisis management to a more structured medium-term approach. And as part of the Ukraine Civil Society Forum, we've had 4 recommendations, and these have been articulated for quite a while now. But we need the appointment of and the resourcing of a national lead for Ireland's refugee response. We need to mandate the Housing Agency to develop a medium-term plan for housing refugees. We need to establish a refugee agency to coordinate the reception, the accommodation, the integration of refugees. And we also right now need to make welfare and integration supports for refugees a priority in the upcoming budget.
And those are things that John have just said. And the thing is, you know, you're looking for these things to happen and they make a lot of sense. We don't want to be putting students versus refugees who are fleeing from war. Like, that's not what we want to see. We need a humane society. So from your point of view, Beth, What is it that you're asking to happen?
So what we really want to see is that the government helps fund our colleges to build more student accommodation, because we've seen that college-owned student accommodation tends to be cheaper, it's less profit-driven, and also the colleges can be lobbied by the students themselves. Private businesses that build student accommodation are less likely to be lobbied by students on prices.
Yeah.
So what we need is for the government to step in here and, you know, help the colleges to build, because with inflation, the cost of building has gone up so much that a lot of colleges have just kind of wiped their hands of the situation and said, we can't afford to build any student accommodation. They can fend for themselves in the private market.
So again, it's the private market coming back in again.
We're seeing Simon Harris is doing this, but it's going to take another couple of years as well to try and do that. Listen, that's really, really interesting. Beth O'Reilly, President of the USI, and John Lannan, CEO of Doris. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'd love to get your opinion at home. Are you a parent of a student who is heading to college and are tearing your hair out? Are you a student or a refugee having to be put up in COVID centres? I mean, is that good enough? Let us know. We've lots more Ireland AM to come.
Welcome back. There was so much news from Manchester United beating Liverpool, which no one expected. Paddy Andrews must be a very happy man in comparison to yesterday. Laura Whitmore has decided to step down as host of Love Island.
Up there with Man United.
I mean, that was big news as well last night. But here to take us through the top stories that we will be talking about is broadcaster and host of the How to Pivot podcast, Aideen Finnegan. Thank you so much, Aideen.
Bleak, unfortunately.
I know,
Aideen.
I wanted to get that out of the way.
Bleak.
Well, if you're a Liverpool fan, I don't suppose they're very happy this morning. But this is awful.
This is awful. So home heating oil, this is on the front page of the Irish Independent this morning. Home heating oil prices drop, but we still face double the bills of last year. So the cost of filling your tank of oil, which probably people may not have done since the winter time, are going to get a massive shock. It has gone from the average cost now, it cost €1,248 on average across the country for 1,000 litres of home heating oil.
Because normally I'd fill it up and it'd be like 600-700 quid.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah. Where now it's double that.
Yes, well, there you go. The 650 last year was the average cost, which tallies with what you're saying there, Tommy.
But that's actually come down. So that's actually come down 20% as well in the last couple of weeks.
Yes, so I mean, obviously we have a lot of flux in the markets and commodities and crude oil, but the thing about it is, as Michael Kilcoyne from the Consumer Association of Ireland was saying, home heating oil is, you know, you have to have it in rural Ireland if you can't get on piped gas mains. Yeah. So it is an essential and you absolutely cannot go without it. So if you are going to spend this amount of money, and God, where do you pull €1,000 for at short notice you are going to have to cut back in other areas, like your food shopping basket, like, and we're going to talk about it now, the back to school costs coming in on top of everything as well. So yeah, it's bleak. I mean,
but it's almost every paper.
It's the front page of all the major papers this morning.
St Vincent de Paul has seen a surge in calls over a 20% increase. Already, we're in August for help. And 1 in 3 of those calls have to do with food poverty. People not having enough food. I saw outside the New Duns in Limerick the other day, they now have, for the Simon community, they've got a food bank at the bottom. So is that you pick up an extra item and leave some of your shopping.
I saw that.
This used to be a thing that used to happen at Christmas time, you know, whatever. Now it's all year round, which is thank God that there are supermarkets who are taking it on themselves to tally up with people to do this. But this is where we're at now.
This is where we're at, and this is where we're at when it's warm. You know, you still don't really even need a jacket now. This is going to be so compounded as soon as the evenings start closing in and it gets a bit colder. And, you know, we have calls this morning from ISME, who represent small and medium bit-sized businesses looking for a windfall tax. We've heard these calls grow louder and louder for a windfall tax on energy companies when they're making these abnormally large profits.
Remember that. That's what people need to remember. They're making higher profits than they ever have before.
And there's a bit of a split. It looks like Pascal Donoghue is very cool on the idea, and Tánaiste Leo Varadkar are more in favour of it. So we're going to, you know, obviously
I have to think those profits have to be taxed at a higher level and a cap being put on these prices. But listen, who knows what's going to happen next few months. But to think that people are going to have to make the decision between heating their homes or putting food on the table is pretty frightening, and that's the way things look like it's going to go in the winter time. Should we move on to the credit union loans as well? Because
it's all connected.
Back to school is coming, and the cost of sending your kids to school, I mean, it doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't. And so this shows up big time at this time of year for families who are, you know, we have the Irish League of Credit Unions saying that by the time they have paid for their heating and the back to school costs, there's no money left for anything else. So they've seen a surge in people looking for help from the credit unions, and St Vincent de Paul also reporting a 20% increase in the number of people seeking help from them. What I thought was really striking was the back to school loan applications have skyrocketed, and Roscommon Credit Union CEO Bernie Moran is quoted in the paper this morning saying that the amount being lent since the beginning of August stands at €60,000.
Okay.
That is 20 times more than what they would have been lent. €3,000 last year at the same time last year.
Wow.
Isn't that
From
staggering?
August, they've lent €60,000 in Roscommon Credit Union for people to cover the costs.
Yeah.
Like there's
a tipping point coming. There has to be.
But sometimes I'm kind of like, are people paying attention? My old primary school, St Paul's in Limerick, they decided to bring in a new uniform this year. So all old uniforms are being chucked out.
Yeah.
Like kids in 6th class have to get a new. Where's the
new
joint?
colours.
New colours.
Oh,
so they can't use their old uniform.
And
where's the thinking there?
The school can, with the stroke of a pen overnight, say, OK, this year things are very tight. We're not going to be as strict on the uniform. That's something that doesn't have to be cleared by the EU. It doesn't have to go to. They can just make a decision.
You can
then and there.
You could buy one tracksuit for the year, whatever. Changing the whole.
Or wear
uniform.
whatever tracksuit you have this year.
The average cost of basics for a 4th class pupil, €400. In secondary school, first year pupil, €800.
Yeah, and if you've got 2 or more children in secondary school.
Yeah, and then you have the likes of creches and everything else as well.
Don't get me started on that. You can bring me back another day for that chat.
But if you've got an issue with your school whereby I just couldn't get over it that the school decided to bring in a new uniform after COVID, no one has any money and we're in a cost of living crisis.
That's tone deaf.
If you've got stuff that's going on in your school like that, where you're trying to talk to the board of management or teachers, we'd love to hear from you because it just seems that you're not in the real world. 0896 111 111. Can we please spend some time on this now, very quickly? But
you're not going to be able to do this because the cost of them.
Okay. So this is to do with a formula to prevent tantrums.
Yeah.
Aideen Finnegan could sort out your life, everybody.
I could.
Mathematicians.
This word boffins that they love to use.
Him last night, the emails last night, he was like, this is ridiculous.
OK, Tommy, I'll let you loose now in a moment on this story. So mathematicians say they've come up with a formula to prevent tantrums on car journeys. Mathematicians, all those letters after their name.
Yeah.
They say they've created a formula that helps Nottingham Trent University have found that the chances of a tantrum are reduced when a child is entertained. No S.
No,
Sherlock
yeah, exactly.
can delay a meltdown by 15 minutes.
But I love this. T equals 70. So 70 minutes they reckon it takes before the first tantrum.
So tantrum equals 70.
That's ridiculous. Plus 2E, what's that?
Plus 5E.
Or 5E.
You failed already. Yeah.
But 70,
that's 5 minutes of being entertained. And plus 15 minutes of food before the tantrum it keeps them calm for 10 minutes longer.
However,
I have a 2-year-old and the toddler tantrums. Oh, listen, I mean, 70 minutes before a tantrum?
Yeah, go way out of that.
I don't think kids can go to tantrum 0 to 60.
Will keep them quiet.
Like they're gone in 60 seconds?
Yeah.
Love it.
Do you have a hack on how to stop your children having tantrums in the back and them poking each other and fighting?
This is my side and you're not allowed crossover to my side.
Just take the iPhone and snacks and be quiet.
I'd love to hear about the most ridiculous tantrum they've had, like when, they wanted, it's not sunny outside or it's, when it's really mad. 0896 111 111. Would love to hear about your ridiculous tantrums that your child has had. Aideen Finnegan, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Great to have you. Now, up next, we're going to be talking about if you want to look to change banks, we're going to have expert advice to help you make the big switch.
Welcome back. Now, the upcoming departure of Ulster Bank and KBC has left nearly 1 million customers needing to switch their bank accounts.
So here to help us, Ciara Leahy, consumer editor with the Farmers Journal. Good morning to you,
guys.
Ciara. Great to see you.
How's it going?
A lot of panic out there, I can imagine. Yeah. How long do people have before they need to make this switch?
So if you're with KBC, you need to get sorted by Christmas. If you're with Ulster Bank, you need to be sorted by March. And these really are important deadlines, guys. If you've got a mortgage, that's going to be automatically transferred over. If you're with Ulster Bank, it's going to go to Permanent TSB. If you're with KBC, it's going to go to Bank of Ireland. So mortgages aren't quite as,
Oh, really? They did deals. They were in place.
Yes, exactly.
On the same rate?
Yes, on the same rate.
Okay.
But your current account is what you need to get sorted, because if you haven't transferred or switched your current account over by the deadline, what's going to happen is the banks are just going to close your account, they're going to issue with the cheque and say, see you later. Which, when you think about, most people get their pay into their current account, most people have their direct debits to pay bills. If you're not sorted, you're going to be in a bit of a pickle. So it's time to get sorted now. But everybody should be looking around at the market, given the increased cost of living, to see if they're getting the best deal.
Because there are, we all know the furore that was caused by AIB Bank when they said that 60 branches were going cashless. Uproar, they backed down.
Yes.
Because
the power of the people.
Do you know what? It was amazing to see.
For the minute.
For the minute. But it was amazing to see, shops and pubs going, so you don't care about us. We're cash businesses.
Absolutely.
What are you doing? So that was it. But they said, oh, we're doing this so as that we'll have more staff because we're going to have more customers soon. So it's like you care about is there an issue here about them being like, we care about our new customers, our old customers, whatever? It felt like a kick in the teeth.
It felt like a kick in the teeth. And I think that it sent a very, very clear message, not just to AIB, but to the banking sector of Ireland, because the market has changed massively over the last few years, Mary. And I've been writing about current accounts for, 10 years, right? And, 10 years ago, it was like, these are your financial institutions, find the best deal for you. Now it's very different because you've got digital banks, you've got your financial institutions that we're used to. But that message was saying to people, we still value, or it was saying to the banks, we want that one-on-one, that customer service experience, and that has dropped massively in the banking sector. Customer service is on the floor in terms of banking, but it's really what people want. And anybody, you don't need an expert in banking here to see, right, okay, people are looking for the best deal on their current account, but really where a bank can just, shoot out of the market is if they were to offer good customer service.
It's not really funny that they still use card readers. Don't AIB still use card readers? So is that you have to transfer?
You can, yeah.
I remember being in the office and people just going, does anyone have a card reader? That's not that long ago.
It's just, I was in the bank twice last week and they deliberately tried to frustrate you, I think, going in now. It's so infuriating.
And there's no one to talk to, but that was one of the reasons why AIB said they were going down that route, because people going to the teller has reduced by 50% in recent years.
Well, people are still going in and there's still they're like, oh, hello, there's a computer.
Because banking is complex and you want some advice.
Yes.
You mentioned there a minute ago about how in the current credit crunch we're seeing at the minute, people should look at different banks and always look to maybe change. Is there actually benefits? If you move from one big bank to another, what are the differences?
Tommy, it depends on the way you bank, okay? So if you look at it there now, right, at the different charges that are being, that people are looking at, okay? Let's look at our kind of traditional financial institutions, the likes of your Bank of Ireland, your AIBs, your Permanent TSB, your EBS. They are, some of them have monthly fees, right? So if you're to look, Bank of Ireland and Permanent TSB have the highest monthly fees, quarterly fees at 18 euros, which over the course of a year is 72 euros. But Bank of Ireland, for example, that's it then. You're not looking at charges on your daily, everyday banking.
But there aren't transaction fees.
You're paying your, that's to keep your current account and for the banks to make money. But then if you're to look at AIB, for example, their quarterly fee is €4.50, which is a quarter of the price of Bank of Ireland and Permanent TSB. But they're going to charge you for direct debits. They're going to charge you 35 cents every time you use the ATM. They're going to charge you
35 cents?
Yes. They're going to charge you €10 if an item goes unpaid. So you need to look at the way you bank. Am I someone that's very organised, that, doesn't have unpaid fees and everything like that? Is it just better for me to just pay a quarterly fee? Is it better for me to just pay a quarterly fee? Or am I someone that banks very, very, that doesn't use your ATM a lot?
A debit card transaction, even just to use your debit card, is 20 cents.
Exactly.
Well,
every time you
could be tapping for a bottle of water.
It's an extra 20 cents.
Wow.
And there's another thing: is MoneyJar is a new financial institution. This is a digital bank on the market. What they've introduced is 3 cents on your contactless fee, which is kind of worrying because there was charges on contactless fee, then there wasn't. But now that they're out of the trap on the contactless fee, it's like, are more going to follow suit here? And how many times a day do you now tap your card?
Oh yeah.
I started this week. I took out money yesterday, and that's it. Because I spend less if I have physical.
It doesn't feel like
money.
real money.
So it doesn't,
yeah,
and I'm like, I need to save money.
What about Revolut and stuff then? Are they the same? Are they something that people should actually look?
Yes.
Really?
Well, I'll tell you, sorry, just before, because this is part of it, is there are digital banks out there now, like N26, MoneyJar and Revolut. And one of the things is, though, if you're banking, they want you to bank digitally. So N26, for example, talking about taking money out of the ATM, they'll give you 3 free ATM withdrawals a month. But after that, it's €2 every time you take out something out of the ATM. So if you take out €20, it's €22. So, yeah, these are digital banks, N26 and MoneyJar. And basically, like, they are totally legit, right?
Yes.
N26, for example, has 200,000 customers in Ireland. They have 7 million customers worldwide. They're a German bank and they operate off this thing called a European passport, which allows them to, I guess the passport allows them to bank in different countries. You're actually you're under the German deposit guarantee scheme. You're covered up to €100,000. So it's a safe banking with them as it is to bank with an Irish bank. MoneyJar is kind of a new Irish version of that on the market.
Yeah.
But I guess you need to really look at this, right? Because it is a digital bank. It doesn't have that bricks and mortar building that you can walk into and say, I have a problem with my overdraft, because they don't do overdrafts.
Yeah.
And they don't do checkbooks, and you can't lodge a check. So you need to look at the way you bank. Are you someone that uses checks?
Their apps are a lot better, I find, though.
Their apps are fantastic. I mean, they are digitally advanced.
Yeah, really.
So it kind of suits, I guess, younger people that are very savvy.
Yeah.
But, like, for example, if you're farming and you're still dealing with checks, these banks aren't going to work for you.
They're not for you.
So, as I said, it's compared to 10 years ago, it's kind of like, look at the market, which one do I want to go with? They're very different options in the market now.
Yeah.
And on Revolut, in my article in this week's Farmers Journal on current accounts, I actually don't include Revolut. I'll tell you why. And you won't find them on cost comparison websites like the CCCP and Bonkers, because up until this year, they were an e-money account from Lithuania. So people had their current accounts and they transferred their money into their Revolut. And, all the fantastic features you can use, like the bank, like the vaults. The vaults, they're just brilliant.
The vaults are how you save money. Yeah, it's brilliant.
But what happened, so then earlier this year, they actually got a banking licence, but that only happened in March of this year.
Yeah.
It's very early days. They're only 5 months operating. And they are a registered bank with the European Central Bank, but they never went as far as the Irish Central Bank. And as a result, their IBAN is an LT for Lithuania, not IE.
Okay.
So if you're getting paid into your Revolut, there are glitches in the system. Companies are coming across problems because their systems are just,
so just leave it for a while.
That's
Use it for its
exactly
fault, but nothing. Leave it.
The glitches will be ironed out the next time I'm in, which might not be for a while, but to do the current accounts.
Don't be saying that. They're wanting you back and say all the questions we're going to have after this.
The next time we're going to do current accounts, I will be talking about Revolut.
Ciara Lee, of course, from the Farmers Journal. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Ciara. Cheers. We'll be back with you shortly on Ireland AM. Welcome back to Ireland AM.
Still to come with the kids returning to school very soon. Sleep expert Lucy Wolfe has expert advice in getting them into the right sleep routine, and boy, I need it.
Good luck with that, Taribo. Plus, he's been touring the comedy circuit with his identical twin for years. I mean, that's a USP, really, isn't it? Aussie comedian Benjamin Stevenson chats to us. Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
They do their whole thing. They can mix. I wonder if they ever did that with girlfriends.
Oh, and wonder who told that joke.
Pretend if they were.
We'll be finding out very shortly. Jack O'Keefe is setting off the fire alarm in the kitchen this morning. Jack, welcome back from your holidays.
Raising smoke signals here.
Isn't it? It's steak. It smells good.
Are you excited? Are you excited? Yeah.
I'm not a steak person. I'm just like,
most people go on a diet after their holiday, but I'm just embracing it.
So you're off on your holidays and you've come back inspired.
Inspired by Italian steak, but I'm going to put a twist in it. I'm obviously going to use Irish steak, local to me. cow that I can open the windows in the bedroom, look out, and there I can see him walking around. And now
Does look like a whole cow. Gee,
it's just a little section.
Oh, I'll take both of them.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
All yours, my friend. Now, Derek has been out having a fruitful morning in Kildare. Hello, Derek.
Murray, never mind the steak. We've got the strawberries here down at Salons in County Kildare. Guys, it's a dry and settled start. Shares on the way up from the south. But we've come down here to the McCarthy family strawberry farm. And coming up in the next wee while, we're going to be learning all about how they deep freeze the plants. We're going to be learning about the use of coir and, in fact, the impact of the lack of bumblebees, where they have to bring them in from the Netherlands to pollinate the plants. So that's all to come in the next wee while. But, guys, very, very tasty. Will I try them out for you?
Oh, they have to bring the bees in from the Netherlands.
There's just...
That's incredible.
Love when he does this.
Okay.
He teaches us so much, does our Derek.
Looking forward to find out more, Derek. Thanks for that.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline, Charity sees surge in calls over food price inflation. St Vincent de Paul is expecting a record number of people to seek its help this year as the cost of living crisis intensifies.
Costs of home heating oil falls, but bills still doubled in past year. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. Householders filling up their oil tank for the winter will have to pay hundreds of euro more for their home heating oil. It has emerged.
The Examiner leads with ISME impose windfall tax on energy firms. Finance Minister Paschal Donohoe must impose windfall taxes on energy firms, business leaders have warned, after gas prices in Europe spiked 15% higher yesterday, which is hitting new record levels.
The Sun leads with kicked to death over pub row. A young man has died in hospital after he was seriously injured in a late-night attack outside a Kildare pub.
The Star leads with that same story. Their headline, too many punches to nail killer. And all of our thoughts are with Dylan McCarthy's family, of course, as we mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. The Herald also was the same story. Their headline, attack victim dies of injuries.
Surge in credit union loans for back to school is the top story on the Daily Mail. Loan applications to credit unions are soaring as cash-strapped parents struggle to cover back to school expenses amid the cost of living crisis.
And finally, the Mirror goes with utter madness. Hard-hit Irish consumers face paying more for dairy products and fish as wholesale costs skyrocket. That's after figures were revealed yesterday. Now, a lot of texts in again about the housing situation with students switching bank accounts as well, but I want to just quickly talk about this one with the toddlers, because
the tantrums.
Mathematicians have talked about how they've come up with a formula for combating tantrums with the children in the back of the car. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And mathematicians, you're not going to solve this. But we've had a text, and I like this one. A text from Anne on the subject of tantrums in cars. Well, here is the best old-fashioned solution ever. Love it. The driver of the car simply turns off the engine and says, oh, that's it. The car's broken because of all the noise. Problem solved. After a few times, the kids were going shopping knowing that there's a promise of a treat as well as mentioned. But I love that. My kids would panic. It's just the constant chatter in the back. It doesn't stop.
Is this going to be employed?
Yeah, definitely. Stop the car.
Stop the car.
We had one as well whenever we used to watch the TV in the summertime. My dad used to come up and trip the electricity switch. Oh, the son's tripped the switch. No more Wi-Fi, no more television.
I remember that, just being like, that's what's happened. There's one here from Dave. We were asking for the bonkers reason that your child has had a tantrum. And Dave is in Limerick this morning, and this has just happened to him. His daughter just roared, had an absolute tantrum because her cornflakes, in which she wanted milk, because they're wet.
Yeah, no, I don't like them wet. I don't like them wet. Oh,
I feel like that's something Emma has said.
Oh, daily. And another topic, I talk about the accommodation crisis. We're talking about 4,500 of the Ukrainian refugees are to be leaving student accommodation this month and next month, obviously, so the students can come in. But still, there are not enough places for the students. No. It's a nightmare, not just for students, but for anyone looking for a property in Dublin. I have two children, both looking for accommodation, as one has just finished DCU, going into 3-year job contract. My other child is third on interim year and working until the 5th of September. Can't even get estate agents to call them back, respond to emails. I am at my wits' end.
I honestly don't think it's just Dublin. And a lot of the time people are Dublin-centric. I know people who have no place to live in Limerick and Waterford.
Galway, Cork,
I
everywhere.
saw a mother on Twitter about a month and a half ago asking anyone. She just wanted digs. She was like, can anyone help me out? I'll come, I'll bring them down on Monday, I'll collect them on a Thursday, I can bring them home from nights out if you want.
I'll bake
They
all
live
the
in Cork.
lasagnas for your
She was
family, for
looking
your house as well.
anything that she could do in order to get her child a place to live in Waterford. And she's like, I'll bring them home from nights out to make sure they're home early.
Yeah.
She was going to drive from Cork. I was like, what? Yeah.
Up next was, my son as well is going to go to college, searching for accommodation since March. Still no success.
That's for UL.
That's in UL. It looks like he won't be going to college this year.
Like, this is mad. You know what to do?
Text coming in, please.
61111.
Now, coming up next, more to look
children.
forward to. The kids, they're heading back to school.
So this is all to do with sleep. So Lucy Wolf, our sleep expert, is going to try to get you back into those sleep
routine.
patterns. We'll talk to you shortly.
Well, with school just around the corner, the school around the corner.
That's what I was thinking.
Many parents may feel that their kids will have trouble getting back into a regular sleep pattern.
So you know what? She's had a lovely holiday, but we were like, Lucy Wolf,
We need
sleep
you.
expert, please come in. How are you, Lucy?
I'm good. I'm really good, thank you.
This is the time of year. I'd say you're getting nothing but messages going, I can't. We've got school. Some people are going back this
That's
week.
right, yeah. That's right.
Kids starting for the very first time, 4 and
Yeah.
5-year-olds. So a sleep routine is incredibly important.
Sleep's important in order to, let's say, learn, stay motivated, concentrate. So it is really important. But look, we've talked here already how, the idea of being relaxed over the summer months with your sleep routine, feels right for a lot of families. But of course, now going back to school puts that shape back into it. And some parents will feel that maybe they need to do some work on the sleep just a little bit in advance, especially for the teenagers who maybe have been having very late sleep-ins. And staying awake a lot at night, and now they're going to have to get up really early to go to school. So, we look at maybe changing their timings a little bit in the next couple of days in advance of them going back to school.
Can you do that with teenagers? I can't imagine my parents trying to get me to go to sleep at a certain time at 14.
Well, I don't know,
I suppose
Lucy,
the thing is, for that age group, it is really about us informing and educating our children and giving them a level of ownership, the same way we do with eating healthily and exercise. We're just trying to bring the sleep piece into that wellness space.
Yeah.
So they take a little bit of ownership for themselves. And again, it's very hard to get someone to go to sleep. But again, if we have them waking very late in the morning time, that's really dislodging bedtime. So just a small adjustment that it's worth making over the next couple of days is maybe to start getting them up a little bit earlier, 15 minutes, half an hour earlier each morning over the next couple of days, so that when we have to get up for work or school on Monday or whenever it is, like I've got 3 children going back to 3 different places, they're all going back on different days. So again, it's just about maybe doing something in advance and then maybe maintaining that for the 7 days a week for the next couple of weeks.
So leave the Hoover on outside their door. For the few days. Is that going to work?
Well, you see, the thing is, right, if we just look at getting them up a little bit earlier, that'll create space for an earlier bedtime. And then, of course, as soon as school begins, they're going to have to get up earlier anyway. And then it's really about bringing back in those rituals, the relaxation before bedtime, the connection with the parents before bedtime, so that maybe going to sleep gets a little bit easier for them. And we can put those boundaries back in place.
We took on board what you said about relaxing over the summer because we would be very much routine. And it was brilliant. It was great crack, and you're on your holidays, and we're allowed to stay up later, the kids are happy. It's going to be stress, it's going to be hard work for parents to get back. To get back into that and being the bad cop, having to force them to go to bed early as well.
And don't let it become that sort of battle. We often talk about bedtimes and we often talk about battles at bedtime. We don't want winners and losers where sleep is concerned. We want cooperation, we want collaboration, we want co-creation. We want them all to be party to it. And yes, Tommy, it's going to be difficult for all of us. But again, it's about how we introduce these things. And again, I definitely find, let's say, there's a grief period for us when, this gorgeous, relaxed element then has to change. And it's not just having to get up early and go, because we've been doing that anyway, right? Some of us. It's about the lunches, it's about the rigmarole, it's the after-school. It's all of that. So again, it's worth it for all of us to begin to just gently and in a really kind of loving framework introduce those. Because as lovely as that's been, Tommy, the routine is also, you know, that
We need
rhythm
it back. Yeah, I'd say a lot of
is
people
also
feel you
very
need it back.
positive for families as well. And, you know, we've got a lot of children who will be starting preschool for the first time. And there was a study recently that suggested one of the most important things that we can do for our preschoolers to make the transition smoother is actually ensure that they're getting enough sleep for their age range.
Yeah. What about devices? Because that was a big thing whenever I went on holiday. We were with our little nieces and they were up, you know, they were 14, 15 on their, you sent them off to bed at 9, 10 o'clock. But you could tell they were taking their phones off. They weren't going to bed.
Yeah, I know.
So,
and this is a real big challenge for parents of the adolescent cohort. And again, it's about a personal decision about what you want in your family and how you know, navigate that. It's not easy. I've been there. I am there. And so it is difficult about trying to create the setting that, you know, honours their right to be online and digitally available, but also having that kind of time where we say, okay, this is the time we have a digital cut-off or a digital boundary, I often call it.
But that's taking the device, right? Because, like, you turn off the Wi-Fi, they've still got 4G.
Yeah, it depends on how you want to operate it. We've done a few things in our house, some to success and some not. Personal ownership is probably a really good one, and modelling from your own perspective.
Give us an idea, like what sort of thing has worked?
Yeah, I feel, again, involving them. And, you know, I think especially for our adolescents, understanding how important sleep is. So let's say if you have a child who's deeply involved in sport and wants to be, well, their sleep has a massive impact on how they're going to perform. If you have a child who's deeply involved in, you know, academics and really has high goals for themselves, again, sleep's going to be... So again, it's about educating our children about what's important and then putting those digital boundary pieces in place.
But there are some kids who hate school, and there's some, like, we all know as an adult, like, I need to go to bed early, and I find myself automatically, why am I looking at it? I'm like, what am I doing?
I know, and it's so easy to do that. And I suppose, again, like I mentioned just briefly there, like you said, what's worked, what hasn't worked, we've done a bit of everything. And like cutting off the Wi-Fi hadn't worked for us, because then they're overriding the system and they're, you know, restoring to factory settings. And I suppose, so again, what I have found is personal ownership and responsibility was helpful to us, and also modelling. So I put away my phone, that I have a boundary around my sleep, that I go to bed at a certain time. That also can be helpful. But again, we're only all navigating. We're all trying to figure out what feels right for our family and for our children as well. But I think mostly it's about the conversation and the connection that we have with them and the involvement around that, so that often we say, okay, you need to put away your gadget, but what are we replacing it with? Why don't we do it with some family time? Why don't we, you know, take away the gadgets at a certain time or decide that together, and then maybe we'll do something together as a family before we go up to bed.
Mom. I can see that response.
But you know what, Tommy, like, if you really think about it, they want to be with us. They want to engage with us. And as your children are getting older, you know, they'll do things with you. They'll play Scrabble, they'll play card games, you know, but it's about introducing those into your family environment.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's like, you do want to be involved with the adults.
It's interesting that you said the kids want to, like, I suppose they do, They probably see us on our phone and think that we don't want to be hanging out with talking to them as well. What about kids of different ages? So you have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old who are obviously going to be going to bed at different times.
That's right. And again, I think that is about, let's say, creating those rituals in the house that everyone understands. Why is it that Harry goes to bed later than Ellen and Eden, and look, they're my kids' names, And again, there comes a time where everything is really staggered, and then there'll come a time where everything is all in one go. Does that make any sense to you? And I suppose, look, it's a critical time in a family unit, and also there's a big competition of needs in this time. So I'm describing, you know, look, let's go and have some gorgeous family time, but we're all trying to get things done. You're trying to fill up the dishwasher, clean up after and so it's not always as romantic as that. But this critical period, this competition of needs, it reduces, you know, obviously it gets taken over by other needs that arise as our children get older. But it is about trying to create those rituals, and that they're not punitive. Like, so, you know, you kind of said, like, you know, it sounds like, oh, we only need to get to bed now. But we don't want bedtime to feel like that punishment. And, you know, Miriam, like you're saying, you know, even yourself as an adult, you're going like, you know, why am I still on my phone? Because maybe we don't have that loving relationship with sleep. And that takes loads of work, that you're kind of being belligerent around it, like, don't want to shut off.
I never want to go to bed. I got a new mattress. Oh, that's changed the game. It has changed the game. I'm like, oh my God, I want to get into my mattress.
So now you can scroll and read your book on your mattress now instead of going to sleep.
Absolutely, rather than doing it on the couch.
Yeah, but you know, it is about our relationship. Like I always talk about, you know, our relationship with sleep, our relationship with food, our relationship with our technology, and looking at what we can do differently in order to keep promoting those positive sleep practices that create a better relationship with all of those elements.
Because this is, by the way, we're talking in broad strokes
Yeah,
here,
we are.
right? But you're going to come back later on and do a Q&A with us. So if you've got a particular issue that you would love to put to Lucy, it's 0896 111 111. You can also send in a voice note, a WhatsApp voice note, if you'd like to do that, so Lucy can have that connection with you. But oftentimes we're focusing on the children. It can be an issue for parents to get back into that routine as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Like it's a groundswell really when we've been out of routine that we try and put everything. And it is hard. And if you are an adult that struggles routinely with your own sleep anyway, like that can be very difficult then to create that kind of positivity around sleep. But then again, if you are an adult who struggles with your sleep, you know how important it is for us to really help at the early years to instill those positive sleep practices. And that term will have different connotations for each family because it is about what feels right for you. So whether that's about co-sleeping or whether that's about sleeping in separate rooms, whether it's about having a regular bedtime and bedtime routines, it's really about figuring out what feels right for us and does this work for the children that we have in our house and does it work for you as an adult?
Very, very interesting. Yeah, listen, Lucy, you're going to hang around. We're going to get those questions in. We're going to get through as many of them as we can. Please do get in touch. Now he's back from his Holliers. Jack O'Keefe is in the kitchen.
See the tan glowing.
And we saw the tan and
You're
Lucy
supposed to
Wolfe.
lie.
I mean, I'm not too sure.
I was down in the makeup room and I was like, go on, put all that powder on my arms.
You
as well.
up to the Antarctic. How are you getting on? How are the holidays?
I don't want to be back. I felt when the alarm clock went off this morning at 5, I nearly started crying. I can imagine what year like when your alarm goes off.
Tommy couldn't wait to come back after a month off. You were so excited to see myself and Alan, weren't you?
So excited to see Jack and what he's going to cook for us. Come on. And then he wasn't even here. What have we got?
So we got some steak, right? And the most important thing, well, not the most important thing, nothing's important really when it comes to this, but like this is just a little bit of inspiration from Tuscany. You can see I've been on holidays. I'm a bit rusty when it comes to speaking. So this is a Tuscan-inspired steak recipe called steak tagliata, right? Okay. I butchered that pronunciation. I don't care. I'm Irish.
We don't know.
Right. Who cares?
You can say whatever
All
you
it
want.
is it's a technique of cooking steak that where at the end you just thinly slice it, and it's like a sharing platter. I know things are getting tight with families at home and stuff like that, so I don't want to be here with 2 big, massive pieces of meat. And I'm going to be brutally honest, that's €30 of meat sitting in front of me right now. Right, well, 28, 27, something like that,
What sort of cut is that?
Strip line.
Okay.
With this recipe, you can use anything.
Okay.
Ribeye, fillet, strip line, sirloin, if you want to be expensive. But you can go cheap. You can get rump, picanha. Talk and build a relationship with your local butcher shop and just have a chat with them. What's affordable? What's good? This is what I'm thinking. This is what that lunatic on TV did this morning. Can I do something similar with this cut of meat? And your butcher will be more than love to sell you something that's a little bit cheaper.
Like, that is a thick cut. Do you not need to stick that on soon?
That's 400 grams.
Yeah.
Right?
So, like, how long will that take to cook, kind of, do you think?
2 to 3 minutes on each side, so 6 minutes in total, roughly,
well, that's
depending
exactly
on how
how
you
long
like it,
you've
right?
got. So let's,
Does he?
So
our Australian friends are going to be back to us today when we're like, you've got no time left.
look, they can put their shrimps in the Barbie all they want. Notice why they didn't put me in that clip.
So
they don't want to put kerosene to the fire.
So what heat do we
with
need this at?
Very hot. I'm talking, put your frying pan on or your cast iron pan on the heat. Go away and watch an episode of Simpsons, News Talk, whatever you want, right? When there's a few burly firemen knocking at your door because your fire alarm is going off, that's when your pan is ready. Get it smoky. I've had this preheating all morning. Loads of sea salt on your steak. Leave that steak come up to room temperature for about 20 to 30 minutes on your counter, right? Okay. Don't come straight out of the fridge because you want a little bit of room temp in the centre. Good olive oil. Brush it onto the steak with the back of a spoon like so. Grab your tongs, pop it into your hot pan.
And this is what they do in Tuscany then, is it?
Pretty similar. Now, they will generally cook it over a flame or over fire.
Oh, really?
But obviously, I'm not going to set fire to the studio here,
No.
I'm just going to use a cast iron pan. You can use a skillet or grill or your barbecue.
Okay,
perfectly fine. And just use the same technique.
And I suppose it depends, like you can have it medium rare, you can have it, so it depends what way you want it.
Now, they go so rare it's blue.
Oh, really?
So they'll just touch the heat off the pan and it's almost cold still in the centre. And that's just, look, if you're into your meat, I always say, like, try it. Go to a restaurant that you trust a chef that can actually cook and who's sourcing great meat. And you can actually really appreciate the level of detail that the farmer has gone into to raise this beef. Like, the guy who supplies me this beef is one of the lads I play rugby with, right? And he has his own butcher shop and his own farm. I can literally see the cattle out the bedroom window of my house. And they're just free roaming around the field. They have a great life. And, you know, it is proper local beef for me. That pan isn't that hot. Sometimes induction pans can be a bit fiddly.
So, hold on a second. So, are we just having steak? Is that what they do in Tuscany?
No, we're having with a little simple salad, right?
Okay, right.
So while that's browning away, I'm going to season the other side. And a little trick to add flavour to the steak is as it's cooking, take a nice bulb of garlic that I just grabbed in the garden this morning, cut it in half, pop it down into the pan like so.
Okay.
Half a rosemary tree, or you can just use a few sprigs or whatever you have. Pop that in as well. Leave that, cook away there. We're going to do 1 minute, turn it for 1 minute,
Yep.
1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Okay.
Now I have the one I prepared earlier here that's just sitting here
Good,
resting.
because you get to be in
Delicious.
that clip. We're running out of time.
Right, some nice fresh cherry tomatoes.
Yep.
Right, while that's cooking away, I've cut them up. Now, for the steak, right? That steak took about 6 minutes to cook. I've rested it here for another about 6 or so.
Okay.
You can flash it back into the pan. A lot of people will DM me on Instagram after, what about cold meat? I like my meat to be a little bit tepid when I'm eating it. You don't want it scalding hot.
Yeah, well, you're
It's
having
like
it
a
with
warm
a salad.
It's a summery dish inspired by Italy, so you don't want to be, in winter, yeah, have it scalding hot.
Okay.
Pop your steak out onto your chopping board or your serving plate, whatever it is.
And we're just going to cut it. Sharp knife.
Yeah, nice sharp knife, cut it through. And I just went about medium to medium rare for you guys this morning, because I know it is 8:30 in the morning. You know, you don't want to be eating.
As a chef, you know, and I worked in restaurants for years, when someone asks for well done in a restaurant, they're getting the worst cut of meat.
It's heartbreaking as well.
Like, it's
Yeah,
I
and
always
you're-
try to explain this to my father, who liked it singed, and he'd be like, I don't care, I just need it. Because they're like, what's the point in giving someone a good cut of meat if they're not going to be able to taste it?
You're ruining it. You might as well just have chicken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Microwave it in as well, because the skill has gone out of it. Right? Some
Can
fresh.
we eat now? Look at that.
Some fresh rocket
even though
to
it is
sprinkle
8
over
o'clock
it.
in the morning. Love it.
Just garnish it like so. Some chopped, very ripe cherry tomatoes. I am that freak that goes around the supermarket holding all the tomatoes in his hands, smelling them all.
But that's the different, like, or I presume over in Italy and stuff, the level of tomato and stuff.
It is, but we're catching up now as well, because you have a lot of like these are Irish-grown tomatoes, I presume from Wexford, right? And you just smell them, and if they smell really vibrantly tomatoey, almost like a
They do.
like a
The
tomato
Irish
essence.
tomatoes on the vine now are absolutely
They're
gorgeous.
getting phenomenal. Like, just buy them like that on the vine, and you smell them. Like, smell those. Sniff my tomatoes, Mirren.
I'm delighted. I
Some
never thought I'd be asked. Lads, Tuesday is turning out pretty good.
So you've got Irish tomatoes, but Italian cheese.
I smuggled this back, right?
Okay.
In my pockets, through security, through Pisa. I was threatening the
the
security guard, if you
smell?
take my formaggio,
Well, that is good.
right? So some pecorino cheese. You can get it in every Irish supermarket, but obviously I had to bring it back with me. Speed peeler.
Will you turn that piece of the stick?
You want to see the
Have a
colour on it?
look, yeah.
Look at that.
And look at your crust.
Lovely.
That crisp is what you want. When you're biting into it, you have your lovely texture of the soft red meat in the centre and you have your crisp on the outside.
Yeah.
You can see, just leave it alone, you know? And then...
Yeah, none of that faffing about, none of that moving it around the pan. Just
No,
leave it do its
don't
thing.
play with it, yeah. And then I just get all that pecorino around it like so. Half it's on my shoes.
Beautiful.
A little bit of balsamic vinegar then. Just a tiny little bit. Because you don't want to distract away from that lovely beefy flavour.
Smells amazing.
Finish it with some flaky sea salt. You can use Irish or you can use Malden, doesn't matter. And like
Gorgeous.
so.
Look at
And there's
that.
2 little side plates for you there if you want to share. And it's as simple as that. You can jazz that up. You can serve it with baked potatoes if you want. But just to keep it really simple.
But
and
isn't
it's
that
all about
gorgeous?
the
Like,
beef here.
even just as a display, do you know,
Sorry.
like, for people to try.
Oh my
it.
God, have I gone too quickly?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Imagine some rosemary roasted baked potatoes now with that. You're just away with it. And as I was saying, times are tight at the moment. That's perfect for 2 to 3 people as a nice light dinner on a hot summer's evening.
I love the pecorino on it, you know. It's nice,
Good.
isn't it?
It's chalky, it's the cheesy kind of fermented flavours that really go well with that beef.
Stunning. Yeah.
And when you're actually out in these countries, look,
Gorgeous.
it's great going to Italy and it's great going to France and all and travelling and being back open again. But when you eat beef, yes, you could be as cooked by whatever skilled chef, you miss Irish beef when you're out there.
Yeah, it's
We
amazing.
produce some of the best beef on the planet.
But leaving it rest that little bit so that it's not boiling, it really adds to it.
No blood on the plate.
Gorgeous.
Jack, thank you so much for that. Absolutely delicious.
Really,
I have to
really
say
good.
that.
OK, coming up next, we're going to cross across to Derek, who's in one of Ireland's biggest strawberry farms. We'll see you after the break.
Aww.
You are very welcome back in the studio. It's full of people all devouring Jack's steak there. But now let's get across to Derek as he is broadcasting live from a very special location. Take it away, Derek.
see what you did there, Tommy. I know Jack served up a delicious steak there in the kitchen just before break, and now we're serving up dessert with some beautiful strawberries. 11 acres here in Salons in County Kildare. The man behind it all is Gary McCarthy from the family farm. Gary, you're a busy man.
Good morning, Derek. Yes, yeah, very busy. Just took a few minutes out to talk to you this morning.
Thanks very much, Gary.
The staff were over picking strawberries over in the tunnels beyond. Hopefully they'll have them ready by about 12 o'clock. We'll chill them down, and then the packing will happen after lunch, and then they're off to the shops for tomorrow morning.
For
fresh.
tomorrow morning, nice and early. Now, you've 11 acres. How many strawberries do you produce on the farm?
Yeah, we have 11 acres. We produce approximately 1 million punnets each year. And I suppose about 10 punnets, or 10 strawberries in each punnet. So that's about 10 million strawberries in total each year.
10 million, wow,
That's
phenomenal.
it.
Now, take us back to the start, of course. The baby plants, where did they come from?
The baby plants come from Holland. The traditional season of a strawberry plant, maybe 30 years ago, was that we'd start picking in June for 6 weeks, whereas nowadays what happens is the plant is grown in Holland, it's put into a freezer and held down at -2 for 6 months.
So it's frozen, why so?
It's frozen to make it a long winter. We planted these plants here in June, the end of June, and the plant thought it was the winter, and when we put it in here in the end of June, then it starts to grow, it starts to produce its flowers, it starts to do its berries, but it thinks now that this is springtime.
This is spring, but actually we're into late summer, early autumn. Now, they're planted in coir. What is coir?
Planted in coir. Coir is actually the husk, the outside of the coconut. From Sri Lanka, and it's chopped up real fine. And
so it's the hair of the coconut, basically?
The hair of the coconut,
So
yes.
they used to be planted in compost, now it's changed to coir?
That's it. It used to be peat, and now it's coir, a more environmentally friendly system.
And the flower, of course, that's where the strawberry comes from?
Flowers is about the most important thing. The thing about the strawberry plant, it's very tough and strong, but as soon as the flower comes on, that's when we have to be careful. That's where it gets delicate.
Now, bees, very, very important,
Absolutely.
aren't they?
The bees, actually, just here, Derek, we have a beehive here.
OK.
These bees come in from Holland. And every single flower has to be pollinated, has to be visited by the bee. So these bees, they work very hard. As busy as a bee is
it's the saying, right?
True statement, yeah. Because if you look down the road, there's thousands and thousands of berries down there. And in this box...
How many bees do you have there?
We have about 180 or 200 in this box.
OK, and how many in total then?
And in the glass house, the whole acre here, there's probably about three boxes. And they'll pollinate all.
They pollinate all the flowers. But why do you have to bring them in from the Netherlands?
The reason is the traditional honeybee. It's not so important this time of the year, particularly in the spring though. The honeybee needs a warmer temperature, whereas the bumblebee will work at a few degrees lower.
Okay.
And in March, around St. Patrick's Day, is when we get our first flowers, and it's dull sometimes and it's cold, and the bumblebee will work then.
But a big shortage of insects at the moment, big shortage of bees, major problem, isn't it?
Well, bees is an issue around the whole world. We all kind of forget about it, but even the likes of cornfields, they have to be pollinated by insects and bees. Apples as well. Hedgerows, blackberries, all pollinated by bees, which is the food for.
OK, so without the bees, we're in big trouble. And of course, you have the final product. If you reach up there, and this is what's produced. So how long from growing them in the coir to into the punnets?
This is quite a quick crop because the days were so long. Maybe 6 weeks ago when these were planted, it was bright at 4 a.m. until maybe 10 a.m. So a very, very long day. Whereas in the wintertime, it's obviously shorter. So these were planted in these plants here beside us, were planted the end of June, and we've been picking this glasshouse here for the last 10 days or so. This is the final crop here. Beautiful.
Okay,
strawberries.
beautiful. And what I didn't know, and I suppose what many of our viewers don't know, is that the strawberry is the only fruit that wears or bears its seeds on the outside.
That's correct, yes,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
An interesting fact.
An interesting fact. So there you have it, Warren and Tommy. Is it 10 million strawberries produced each and every year?
Yes.
Yeah, there we
10
go.
million.
So come here, will you give us a few punnets then back to the lads?
We'll do something now, right?
So you had steak, guys, with strawberries coming your way back to base in a little while.
Million, Derek. 10 million. Can you believe it? That's incredible.
How many?
10.
Wow.
I know, who would have thought? I took the kids strawberry picking in the summer as well. It's a brilliant thing to do with the kids. They love it, and of course they fill themselves full of strawberries too.
And they're happy. They're not eating chocolate, so you're fine.
No, it's great. It's great. And even to see like all the bees and you learn all about that. I mean, it's amazing that they've actually had to import the bees into the country. Yeah, well, depressing as well.
It's really bad that that's something that they've had to do. Like the fact that we're just destroying we're destroying the planet.
I'm sure he's
but
like
let's think about happy things.
and...
Those look like delicious strawberries.
Oh, they They did, and interesting as well, because you think that strawberries are like ripe at a certain time of year, but they trick it. So now they think this is actually spring. Yeah, there you go. Learn something new with Derek every morning.
We certainly do. And Wexford, the rest of Ireland is coming for your strawberries.
County Kildare, who would have thought?
I mean, there we go. They're all coming for the title.
If they dare try to take on Monaghan mushrooms now, there's going to be trouble.
Never. We've been chatting about so many things this morning, but I think that the child tantrums are quite amazing. Just when we're like looking for the best tantrum, this has to be up there for the best one I've ever read.
We had one person say, a child saying they didn't want their cornflakes because they were wet.
But they wanted milk in their cornflakes,
that,
but they didn't want wet cornflakes. So this person texted, thank you so much. Best tantrum. My friend's 3-year-old child said she couldn't stay asleep in the car without the window wipers going. So they drove on a sunny day from Limerick to Cork with the wipers on. They had to stop in Bonogue, Charleville, Buttevant and Mallow to top up the water squirters. Was that they would...
Honestly, for a 3-year-old. But honestly, with the things you do for just a bit of peace, just go to sleep, please. Keep those messages coming in.
We all bend to their wills. They get their own way.
Because it's just not... Listen, a lot of the time you don't, but sometimes you just have to just do whatever they say so you can get some peace. Have you got any more funny stories like that where you're just having to put up with their tantrums? Send them in. We'll try and read them in the next hour.
We'd love to hear them. 0896 111 111. Still to come, we'll be speaking to the comedian who's set to become the next Agatha Christie with his brand new novel.
Plus, we're going to be embracing the wide-leg trouser trend on the catwalk. Who would have thought? We'll see you soon.
Hello there, welcome back to the final hour of Ireland AM.
Still to come, he's one half of a hugely popular comedy duo with his twin brother. Very, very funny.
Yeah.
Australian comedian Benjamin Stevenson is going to join us very shortly.
Laura Duffy, she is on styling duties today, still dressed for the summer. I was freezing this morning, that's why I'm the jumper, lads, okay? All right. Laura, what's the theme? What are we doing today?
Very much in June mode, still here, Maroon. So, if you are loving that wide leg trouser trend, I have you sorted this morning. I have my top wide leg trouser picks, bringing lots of those key trends. We've got pops of colour, we've got those prints, a couple of little jumpsuits as well. So some casual wear, but also some really nice occasion wear as well. So all of the essentials are super budget friendly as well.
Lovely. We want to say hi to Kerry, by the way, who's just back. It's her first day back after her wedding. We were all stalking it online. It was in all the papers. It looked amazing, didn't it?
Do you know what I love is that Kerry's trousers are like leopard and Lorna, yours are like the zebra. So it's an animal theme
really
as well.
Good. I didn't even pick. I was going for the Cruella de Vil, but we'll go with it.
Love it.
We'll go with the Tommy.
Love it.
Look at her, newlywed glow. We made her come back to work. Sorry, Kerry.
Smile.
Thanks, though.
And also, she stayed with us to answer your questions. Sleep expert Lucy Wolfe is going to join us again later in the show. Please do get your questions in. Anything sleep related. She's going to answer them 0896 111 111 or reach out on social. Oh yeah, you're very welcome back. We'll get into text about accommodation crisis, and we were talking about this at the start of the show about how there are so many Ukrainian refugees, 4,500 in student accommodation at the minute. Over the next 2 months, they're going to have to leave to let the students back in. But even with those 4,500 places, it just doesn't seem anywhere near enough. Someone's asked a question, can a person rent a room to a student in their own home? I live on a bus route 30 minutes from Maynooth and 1 hour from Dublin. The answer is yes. And you can claim up to 14,000.
Tax-free up to 14,000 euro. So this is what you can absolutely do. You can charge your rent. I know lots of people are making money. They're living this way now as a result of doing it. Loads of my friends are doing it. And they've got students in their house and it digs.
And it's going to have something that's going to have to open up to more and more people to be encouraged to do it.
You have to regard the vetted, but other than that, it's 14,000 euro tax-free.
In relation to the student accommodation, a catastrophe. I haven't slept for 3 weeks for my son in Limerick. You could dedicate a whole programme to this situation and the messages would absolutely floor you. It's beyond stressful. My son is considering taking a gap year because of this, which, listen, so many have messaged to say that they're going to take a gap year, but it's going to be the same problem next year.
It's just pushing it down.
And it's the same as the people last year are going to have taken the gap year, going to try and get in this. Like, it's
amazing. It's as though the private rental sector isn't doing anything for us. A message here, why don't the colleges release a timetable for students now so that students can try and get accommodations for the days that they really need it? There are issues with that because you don't know, first of all, who's in college and who's not in college. Some people haven't deferred yet. We don't know, like the results aren't out until the 2nd of January for first years. But anyway, my daughter messaged the college to find out what day she needed to be on campus so that she could book an Airbnb for the day she needed to be in Dublin. That's where she goes to college. Their reply was that she needed to be available Monday to Friday. This is ridiculous when she will probably have 4 or 5 modules, which at the most she needs to be there for. So you're thinking 3 days. If they knew their schedule now, they could arrange things better. Airbnb. You're going to have to Airbnb your daughter a place to...
Yeah, that's
Do you
how
know
stuck
what?
people are.
It's an idea, though, isn't it? If they kind of let them know now, you could come up with a
But
solution.
it makes
with someone.
sense. Do you know what I mean? Even talk about the school uniforms. You know, I think that like a secondary school is asked a new crested tracksuit. Just read the room. Read the room.
Read the room.
Right, coming up next, award-winning Aussie comedian. He's going to put a smile on our faces. Benjamin Stevenson is going to join us next. Our next guest is award-winning comedian turned, as if that's not enough, turned author who's been making waves in the world of crime fiction.
Benjamin Stevenson performs with his twin brother James as the Stevenson Experience. Let's have a look at them doing their thing.
We are the Stevenson Experience. The more astute of you may have noticed that we are identical twins.
Also brothers.
And sometimes, pretty hard but good perks, I can unlock his phone with my face.
And I'm banned from pubs I've never set foot in. That's what happens when you look exactly the same.
Well, we're not exactly the same, are we? I'm obviously the lead singer, the handsome one.
We're exactly the same.
We're not exactly the same. We're the same, but we're not the same. Like, you look like if somebody tried to draw me from memory and it up pretty badly.
Good morning, Benjamin Stevenson. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm well, thanks. I've never seen my mouth pixelated before, so that was a unique thrill.
Or is it James?
Welcome to Ireland. We like to pixelate things over here. It's a pleasure to talk to you. You know you're in Sydney right now. Getting into comedy as twins. What was that like? Were people going, hold on a second now, we can't be dealing with the two of you?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because we were obviously one of the only ones sort of doing it. So it was a bit fun. It gave us an edge. But it was also really fun because James and I can sort of read each other's minds a little bit. Like, not like really, but in terms of stagecraft and connection on stage, we just sort of had that from the go. So we knew that we wanted to do something together. And stand-up comedy seemed to be the funnest way to do it.
It's the sort of thing whenever I was growing up, I was always jealous of somebody who had a twin, a particularly identical twin. Because the crack you used to be able to have with the teachers in schools and swapping and wear different clothes and stuff. I mean, the comedy thing must kind of just be a natural thing from when you're born almost as an identical twin.
Yeah, well, we just sort of... You know, we did all those practical, the swapping. James once wanted to ask a girl out and he was too shy. And so he asked me to ask her out for him. And then she said, oh, I'm so sorry, but I've got a crush on your brother. To me, pretending to be him, talking about me. It was very awkward. So we put that all that in the act.
Hold on. Then did you stay pretending to be James and go, oh, OK, I totally get that. Can I say that to my brother and then just do a quick shirt change and be like, hello, I hear you like me?
Yeah, I said I'll go get him, and then and then we pretended to swap back. James was very disappointed.
I can imagine that he was. Did you do that a lot, like with parents and teachers? Do the swapping thing where you pretended to be each other?
Not heaps. It's harder to get away with than you'd think because even if you look the same, you've got different characteristics. So I have to sort of play really dumb when I'm pretending to meet my brother, and he has to sort of smarten himself up a little bit. So I can say that because he's not watching. So.
Oh, well done. Love it.
And a musical comedy, it's something we're seeing more and more, and particularly online. You see these trends and like, it just seems to really resonate with online social media as well. Has that been something that's been a big part of both your careers?
Social media, not so much, but it's absolutely amazing because we've been doing this quite a long time, 15 years, which is great to see musical comedy sort of coming back in this accessible way. And I think it's a really good way to sort of deliver a joke, really, in a catchy way that gets caught in people's heads, and then they're doing it on, TikTok and everything. So there's lots and lots of places it can and will go. So that's very exciting for the genre.
Benjamin, I'm just wondering how James feels, because you're being hailed as the new Agatha Christie. You're going to take the title of Richard Osman as the crime fiction writer that's going to take over the globe with a bit of fun in your books. How does James feel about that? Is he like, I'm going to go to that book festival, or how dare you do something else that we're not doing together?
It's a combination of both. He demands a percentage of my royalties. He keeps insisting that he deserves it for influencing my creativity. But he also is very supportive, and he wants me to make it big because, in his words, then I can hire him as a personal assistant. But I keep telling him the personal assistant is really going to pan out.
That's not going to work. It's not going to work.
I love how it's, you've gone from comedy and making jokes together, but actually where you specialise on your fiction is crime fiction. And it's taken such a resurgence as well. How did you get into crime fiction? And was that always kind of a pathway you thought you were going to go?
Look, I've always loved it. I love that crime fiction is a game that the reader is playing along with the author, and I love being involved in that game. And so I'm one of those people who always wanted to be a writer since I was a kid. But crime fiction and stand-up comedy, which I did stand-up comedy first and then moved into crime fiction, it's exactly the same. It's setups and punchlines, except you're swapping sort of jokes for gasps. So it's exactly the same in terms of what you're letting the reader or the audience in on, and then just trying to twist it and surprise them with something. So I actually found the skills really transferable, which was a lot of fun. And once I started writing it, I was like, oh, this is a good fit for me. I like it.
This is your third book, and it really is being hailed globally as sort of a game changer within the crime fiction genre. It's called Everybody in My Family Has Killed Someone. So, from the start, you're giving away a bit of the game. Tell us what it's about, Benjamin.
Yeah, so it's about a family reunion at a snowtop mountain resort that gets trapped by a snowstorm, and then a serial killer starts picking off the family members. But the thing about this family is that everyone in the family has already killed someone. So the question is, out of a family of killers, how do you find out which one is the murderer?
Oh,
there you go.
Okay.
Who done it?
You love this as well.
I do.
I mean, this is right up Moran's alley. A crime fiction is right up. We're just seeing the success, and all the chat about this book is incredible. But also for you, there was a huge auction for your work as well. HBO have got the rights. Is it to one of the previous books? I mean, you must be very excited about how that's going to go. Oh, we might have lost you. That's how excited he is.
It was a phenomenal experience.
Oh no, we've got you. We've got you back.
I'm back. That's HBO's lawyers coming in and being like, "Don't say anything. Don't say anything you're not allowed to say." It was a phenomenal experience with all the auctions, and I got to meet a whole bunch of Hollywood people who obviously are really sort of new and looked up to. And one of them said during a Zoom meeting that I was very composed and confident, and he was surprised. And I had to admit that I'm just so scared of me basically sitting here so stressed the whole time that I'm not composed at all. So it was a lot of fun, though.
I can imagine that it is, because, we've seen, Richard Osman has he's all over the place, but also Knives Out has become so popular. So this is what we're going to see. It's going to be translated onto the screen as well via HBO. But the book is out. People can check it out. Everybody in My Family Has Killed Someone. Benjamin Stevenson, unfortunately, the line is against us. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning in Ireland. Cheers, Benjamin.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, Benjamin. Gee, that brought me right back to COVID.
Oh, didn't it? It's right back. We're not there again, is it?
I was like, no, not there.
I tell you what, you can read the book and I'll watch the comedy, because that comedy clip had me in stitches. I loved it. The Stevenson experience. I'm going to have to YouTube them guys later on.
Now, up next, it's all about wide... We're both in our kind of skinny pants today. We didn't get the memo. Wide leg trousers on the catwalk.
Back after the short break.
It is fashion time, and we're talking about wide leg trousers with Lorna Duffy this morning because we're seeing it absolutely everywhere. All the cool Scandinavian girls are doing it, and the celebs.
So the cool Scandinavian girls are doing it.
Oh, as soon as
Get on that trend, we need to just start buying the weather.
they've started doing it. So what we're going to do, we're going to take some celebrity inspiration. We're going to start with our first look from Salma Hayek this morning.
It's just fabulous in this look. So basically, from this look, we are taking two things. Obviously, wide leg trousers, and secondly, the animal print. Huge trend, particularly going into autumn as well. Like Valley, we see so many designers loving animal print, so definitely something.
But if you have a big bottom, are you kind of sitting there going, I don't want to draw attention to it with...
What I would say is small, subtle prints. If you're kind of conscious about your bottom or whatever, small prints rather than the big and bold prints.
Okay, so maybe just think about a different sort of a print.
Absolutely.
But, okay,
yeah,
gotcha,
definitely.
gotcha.
And like a high waist, just to kind of focus on like a waistline as well. That's the way to go.
Okay, because with some of these, it's very tough when you've got sort of like, I've got a bloated belly is what I have.
I'm exactly the same word, yeah. No,
so it's kind of like regardless
small,
of size.
dainty prints, a nice kind of high waist, just kind of focus that kind of the eyes on the waistline instead. Definitely.
We've got our newlywed Kerry back.
The newlywed.
Look at her there. That's a real tan from her Italian wedding. So what have we got going on here?
So first of all of our accessories this morning are from Carrot Dunn. We've gone for some really nice sort of subtle pieces this morning. Really, really nice, beautiful little sort of gold drop earrings. A gorgeous little necklace to match.
And this off the shoulder.
This is, okay, so now I love this. So basically this full look here is from the Style Market. This is a beautiful black blazer. We've got the ruche detailing on the sleeves, as we can see. Absolutely stunning. Lots of different colours available in this. It's quite a nice long line, sort of long line blazer as well. So again, for an office look, or maybe you're going to the office on a Friday, finishing, you're heading for drinks after work, it's definitely nice with this. The top. So it's a nice sort of silk like cowl neck top. So obviously you can wear it straight up on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Or we've mixed it up this morning. We've gone for a little side shoulder. So we will be showing you what it looks like the other way in a minute on Ursula, but this is just beautiful. Love that sort of toffee shade, that silk-like material. Again, it sort of jazzes up that trouser look, but again, it's just beautiful. Really, really nice, light material. The pants, obviously, look, they're wide leg. Love that sort of dainty animal print. It's like a structured leg as well. So I think like for an office look, if you want to be a little bit out there in the office, perfect. But again, if you're finishing work with drinks on Friday, after you can jazz it up and you've got your evening outfit and you're ready to go.
So I kind of always have an issue when it comes to these because I always just think they're too short for me. But like with Kerry there, you can see it, but it looks good. Like that's just the thing you don't always have to wear flats.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to go to the ground.
It depends on the shoes as well. Like obviously the court as well. If you've got a heel, it's accentuating the leg. It's definitely going to make them look a lot more kind of proportioned as well. But really, really nice. It's just a fabulous look. And again, just those animal prints and that's the way to go.
That looks great. And the shoes are very nice.
Absolutely beautiful. So again, a really, really nice court. All of our shoes this morning are from Murphy's and they're just perfect. I think like a cord as well, just for that office look again if you wanted. But again, after work, drinks, whatever it is, and yeah, really, really
Lorna,
nice
you sound like you're going out all the time and you don't even drink.
I'm ready for Friday already. That's why I'm like, look, it's Tuesday, Friday needs to hurry up.
This is Jennifer Aniston that we're looking at.
Lovely. So Jen Aniston can do no wrong when it comes to anything fashion related, in my opinion. So firstly here, we had our print. Now we're going for a nice black jumpsuit. We've got a wide leg jumpsuit here. This is absolutely beautiful. We're being very dressy. So maybe if you have maybe a wedding coming up in the next few weeks, a nice autumn wedding, this would be perfect. The earrings are beautiful. Obviously, you know, we're going for quite a dressy look. So the earrings, very much a statement piece. A little bit of sparkle. So elegant, beautiful. We've got this stunning jumpsuit from Ollie and Mel's Boutique. They are based in Donegal. They have such a nice selection of occasion wear and also really nice kind of everyday wear as well. But just love everything about it. Love that satin panel as well. Very, very elegant. I love how it cinches in nicely the waistline. And again, just all things wide leg. And again, if you're not into the print, you know, this is just a really,
that is such
really
a keeper
nice
for so many things because
Isn't
I know
it
it's
just?
wide leg, but it's winter, it's summer.
It's like an all-rounder, Maureen. It's literally an all-rounder.
It really is.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And yeah, of course, we had to go for a little bit of sparkle with our designer-inspired bag here as well. Absolutely stunning. And I just think it ties in nicely with our sparkly earrings. So it's lovely. I just think for a nice, like, you know, an autumn wedding, if you're not into the bright colours, a nice sort of elegant black jumpsuit, definitely the way to go. And then this beautiful little bracelet then as well to tie nicely with the sparkles in her bag.
And watch it now. Sorry, can
so
we
we have to. I was like, I just said, Mika,
what's
you
going on
have to
underneath
lift
those wide leg
the
trousers?
jumpsuit up. We need to see these. So basically, they are my favourite shoes, and I'm buying them later. They're absolutely beautiful. The sparkles speak for themselves. Very much a Carrie Bradshaw strap sandal. And again, I know.
Are they puffy?
They're sort of like that. It kind of almost looks like a little.
Are they puffy?
I know. Yeah.
Oh,
kind
they
of got
are.
that little puffy. Yeah.
They're like ruched.
I know.
They're
I know.
ruched. They're
I know.
ruched.
We'll go for we'll say ruched. We'll go for a ruched style diamante heel. They're just fabulous.
Wow, if
I
you're
know.
wearing something very like a skirt or whatever, they will
be mine. I am.
They're
obsessed.
okay.
They
Someone
will be
buy those
mine.
after. Yumiko, fabulous. Thank you so much. Absolutely beautiful. We are taking Hailey Bieber.
Yes.
Queen of the wide leg
So-
trousers, this one, isn't she?
So she loves a wide leg trouser. Here, we're also going with a tie-dye print. So we're seeing a lot. So tie-dye's not for everyone. But if it is for you, I have you sorted this morning. If not, maybe you're considering it. This is how you can style it the right way, and this is how you can make it work. So first of all, again, we'll start off with our accessories. Love these hoops. They're a little bit different. So they clip in, and they're very elegant. Bit of gold again. We had our silver. Very, very elegant. Lovely little dainty necklace again to match with this as well. Bit of sparkle, obviously, because we have a lot of print going on with our top or our jacket. This is just love a denim jacket, or leather jacket, should I say. Particularly kind of coming into autumn, winter. It's definitely a wardrobe staple. But this particular one, it's quite fitted.
Yeah.
It's really, really elegant. And again, it's quite a light material as well. So obviously it's still really warm at the minute. But if you do want to have that extra layer, it's really nice to have.
And this is the cowl neck that Kerry was wearing, worn in a different way on
So this is how you would
Ursula.
wear a typical cowl neck. So I just like that you can kind of mix it up. You can go for the two different styles. So really nice. Again, I love that silk-like material. It's a really good price point. It just looks more expensive than it is. So I really, really like it.
And you're sticking to kind of the style, which I think is dead right with this. So you've got plain on top because you've got so much going on.
We don't like an overload with our prints.
Yeah.
So it's all about just kind of one print item, one print piece, and then you can kind of just keep it quite subtle with everything else.
Yeah,
Definitely the way to go.
You said tie-dye, and my mind went, oh God, no, this is not tie-dye.
Yeah,
This
so
is
tie-dye can
nicely
I
done.
feel like people think of like those crazy bright rainbow colours, or like the fluorescent pinks. Not at all. Really like this rust colour. And again, there's big and bold prints in terms of trends, like Oscar de la Renta. We've seen it everywhere at Fashion Week, and it is definitely here to stay for autumn and winter. So yeah, really, really nice. And then we've finished off our look with these lovely little pair of black strap sandals, because you can't go wrong with a nice black strap sandal.
Yeah, they're kind of suede. They look very comfortable, actually.
Nice suede, and again, the heel isn't that high, so they're quite comfy as well.
No.
Really
Lovely.
nice.
Ursula, my cowl queen, thank you so much.
Yes, there we go.
And we have got another look we're going to look at now. Daisy Lowe.
Daisy is just an absolute sweetheart. Everything she wears, again, like all the other girls, absolutely beautiful.
Can we
This is
take a look at Kerry here?
I know.
This is
I also
amazing.
want this. I need this in my wardrobe as well, Maureen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So again, we'll start off with our earrings. A lovely pair of gold statement earrings. So again, because there's no print going on with the rest of the outfit, we can kind of go all out with our accessories. We don't need to hold back. They are just beautiful. We've got a nice, simple sort of choker chain then, just to tie in nicely. Again, because there's not a lot of print going on or anything with our actual outfit. But yeah.
Can we get a full length of this outfit? Because I just think that...
I'm just like, I just need somewhere to go. I need to buy this.
Is this a military style sort of blazer?
It is. So it's kind of that military style. Again, you know, it's kind of the colour goes with the raspberry shade and the jumpsuit. Again, it's a sort of nice long line style blazer. Material's not too heavy. It's quite light. So obviously we had our leather jacket. If you're not into leather jackets, a nice blazer is always the way to go.
Let's get a full, I don't think we've had a full one.
Look at this. I know. I know.
Because this is kind of the flared wide leg, right?
This is a proper flared wide leg. Again, the material here, it's a little bit heavier than what we just saw on your Miko. But look, the overall style, and obviously we have that thinner sort of spaghetti strap. It's just so elegant.
That's class. The 1970s thing going on.
Absolutely beautiful. All the 70s vibes. And with that lovely little bracelet again to tie in with our choker, and then a nice pair of nude strapped sandals.
Nude strappy sandals,
So I think
good
it
to
just
go.
ties in nicely, kind of, you know, with the blazer and then that raspberry shade. We don't have to go too harsh with colours. So a nice pair of nude straps.
Kerry with the real tan now. From the wedding. Isn't that fabulous? That would have been a great honeymoon outfit, wouldn't it? Kerry's like, will you please leave me alone? I've had enough of it. Thanks so much. Good to have Kerry back. Lorna, they're lovely.
I'm just going to buy everything.
Yeah, I can see that's very you. All of that was very you. Lorna Duffy, thank you so much for that.
So much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thomas is over there.
Yeah, love that. Weren't you going to wear the jumpsuit?
I'll wear it on my honeymoon, will I? I'm
Yes,
joking. Would
we
you
heard
stop?
it here
He's
first.
slagging me all morning. Don't mind him. Don't mind him. He wants to go to Italy for a
Yes,
wedding.
Thank you very much, Lorna, for that. Now, the questions are in. Lucy Wolfe has stuck around. She's going to be asking your sleep-related questions, and that is coming up after this short break. Don't go away. Well, she's helped sort out our kids' back-to-school sleep schedule, and now she's here to answer your questions.
Sleep expert Lucy Wolfe has stayed with us. Lucy, thank you so much. We've got a voice note here from Margaret in Cavan. Can we have an old listen to Margaret there?
Hi, good morning. I was just wondering, I'm just watching your segment here about the sleep, and I would just like to ask, how long is it, or how much is too much sleep for, let's say, a 4-month-old? I hate to kind of jinx myself, but he's 5 nights in a row now where he's sleeping through from about 8:30 until about 7 in the morning, but I just can't help but worrying, should I be wakening him as in Breffney, up during the night to give him a bottle? Will he be okay? Will I just increase the feed then kind of during the day, or just ride it out and let him sleep and be grateful and thankful that he's sleeping through?
That's Margaret in Cavan there. We're both going, this sounds great.
Yeah, no, and it does sound great. And, you know, from 12 weeks onwards, lots of children begin to consolidate their nighttime sleep. Not all of them, but lots of them do. And again, unless you've been told to wake your child, you know, if they're not gaining weight, then I would generally allow them to start to consolidate their sleep like this child is doing. But you still need to be mindful of how many calories he needs and his milk intake, and then distribute that throughout the course of the day in this instance.
So up the milk intake, like you said.
So that he gets what he needs. Yeah. So if you've been giving him 7-ounce bottles, he might need 8-ounce bottles now. But you again, she'll be able to work that out. Brilliant. And if you're in any doubt, run that by your GP. But most parents will really be saying...
You always panic. When they're sleeping, you're panicking. When they're not sleeping,
yeah, exactly.
But
this is just a really good sign. Yeah. And one thing that happens around now at 4 months is what they call a sleep regression. But sometimes all it indicates is that bedtime just needs to start getting a little bit earlier. So this bedtime's around 8:30. And again, what you might start to see him is looking tired sooner in the evening time. And don't be afraid of that, because that's how we start to see that consolidation of an earlier bedtime to the morning.
Let's move on. We've got a restless baby here. My almost 17-month-old keeps waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning for 1 to 2 hours. He cries uncontrollably and won't settle for his dad. But once I go in, he settles down.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, what can I do?
So it's so difficult, you know, this is really challenging. But again, at 17 months, expecting and understanding that he can start to do better than that is good to hear. But it's often about then figuring out what's contributing to the waking. Very often it's to do with how the day is laid out, what time bedtime is offered at. Like at 17 months and not sleeping well overnight, so awake for 2 hours in the night, he may benefit from being on 2 naps instead of 1 nap. So a short one, you know, before 10 a.m. and then another one later in the day, so that maybe naps are finishing closer to 3 or 3:30.
He's in creche, so I'd imagine he does what they all do.
Yeah, and again, that is difficult. So when they're in daycare and at this age group, they're often napping early, so 12 o'clock, and even if they nap for an hour and a half, all the naps are over by 1:30, which can be too early for a 7:30 bedtime. So again, we might need to look at either looking for cooperation from daycare temporarily, where we try and get his sleep dynamic on track, or honouring an earlier bedtime. So 7:30 p.m. sounds like a normal bedtime, but if your child's not routinely sleeping well, then it probably needs to come earlier.
Okay, and I'm just wondering there when it goes that he'll settle for me, not for his father. I've know lots of people with this issue, and they went through hell for 2 weeks because they're like, I'm not going in, you have to go in and do this. And they kind of went, we have to be able to do it, because, you know, people are back to work.
It does need to be interchangeable. I'm all for picking battles around interchangeability, though, because I call this parent preference, and that's not unusual, and it can come in loads of different forms. Where I love to see interchangeability is at bedtime. That's the key. The bedtime itself is interchangeable, that both parents can potentially do a bedtime.
Well, if someone has a big meeting in the morning, it's like, I'm not getting up with the baby.
Yes, but you see, sometimes when the child is struggling, there's a big emotional piece to this puzzle as well. well, and just then saying cold turkey, I'm only going to go in, may make it more stressful for the child. Creating the interchangeability at bedtime is the key piece, okay? Which means that both parents are able to do bedtime.
Okay.
In a situation where a child's not sleeping well overnight, if one parent can settle that child quicker than the other, I'd use that parent in the short term because it means we all get back to sleep. I then initiate that interchangeability at bedtime, and then much later on I might introduce the other parent and see how we might do that. So again, what I don't ever really want is for sleep to feel like it's all or nothing, as in cold turkey here, hard, you know, it has to be, let's say, looking at it and in context and meeting the child where they're at, both emotionally and from their sleep perspective
combined.
as well.
Okay, quickly, best bedtime for an 8-year-old?
Yeah, very changeable, if I'm totally honest with you, as in their sleep is more defined, as in we know how much they need, and it's much more consolidated than it's been. So somewhere between 9 and 11 hours. So the best thing to do is do the backward math, and figure out what time they need to be up at in order to then get that sort of amount of sleep into them. I think this particular child is waking saying he's had enough sleep, so he might benefit from a slightly later bedtime. There's a bit of trial and error involved.
So I mean,
in that one.
he's up at 8, still 8:30 in the morning. That would be 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and
for
look
11,
at this
but
age
sure,
group, he won't be up at 8:30 because school will be starting, so it's going to be much more like 7.
Okay. Cool.
Perfect. My 3.5-year-old wakes constantly during the night, and he comes into our room 3 to 4 times. We've got a very regular bedtime and nighttime routine. How do we stop this from happening?
Yeah, and I suppose, you know, sleep's massively based on association. So what do I associate with going asleep, and what do I associate with going back to sleep? Now, they can be interchangeable again, and they can be different. The first thing is to try and help your child at bedtime be able to put themselves to sleep without a parent present. Because what that then means is that when they wake throughout the overnight sleep cycle, they can wake up and go, I'm okay. I started off here and I have everything that I need to put myself back to sleep. So that's why we always focus on bedtime. So bedtime is the power, holds all the power.
So that kid is thinking in his head, I need them to put me back to bed.
It's possible. Or this child may be well able to put themselves to sleep at bedtime, but the association is deeply ingrained in the overnight. So he wakes up and goes, muscle memory, I go in, they come and get me, they put me back in, and we do this 3 or 4 times. So again, it's about trying to change that cycle. But we concentrate on bedtime first of all, and then we look at the overnight. And when I do the overnight work, I might even go in and stay with him. Right. Because now what you're stopping is the getting out 4 times. So I might room share with him. So again, I know you're going to say, oh my God, he's going to get used to that.
Yeah,
for it.
but listen,
Everything's
at least you can
transient,
sneak out
you see.
then.
Because, and again, it isn't even about sneaking out. It's about helping him feel safe and secure in the place that we've earmarked for him to sleep.
Yes.
And you see, sometimes what happens with that back and forth is we go back and forth 3 times, and on the 4th time we just go, oh my God, just get into the bed. Now that 3 or 4 times was worth it, and so that you're going to keep that activity alive. I turn it on its head, I put the parent back in with him, and I not in the bed with him, but beside the bed, and now I'm changing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. Just quickly, sleep routine for a 14-year-old.
I know, and I suppose I am deeply invested at the moment in teenage sleep. I've been working on a couple of different programs with schools. I guess it's about, first of all, helping them understand, like we talked about earlier, knowing how much sleep that they need, but it is about connection. And I know we briefly mentioned this earlier. Sleep's the biggest separation of them all. So if we're trying to help our children get to sleep themselves and find it easier, if they connect with us in a really comprehensive way before we look for that to happen, that is going to be easier. And if we are looking at taking away gadgets and things like that, we have to replace it with something. Our presence is a good
connection.
And then that starts to make that separation just that little bit easier. Figure out, first of all, what time is she tired by? Go an hour earlier. And let's look at maybe half an hour downstairs where we turn everything off and we lower the lights and we make everything nice and relaxed, and maybe half an hour more self-directed herself, reading, listening to books, listening to audio.
Fair play. That's great. God, it's such a gamut. Lisa, sleep expert, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Lucy.
And coming up tomorrow, we're going to be chatting to Ava Birthistle, one of the stars of the hit show. It is brilliant, Bad Sisters, which is created and stars Sharon Horgan. The first 2 episodes are out, and it's
all I've heard about.
So good.
We're also going to chat to the novelist Kit DeWall as she looks back on her childhood as a Jehovah's Witness.
It's an incredibly interesting story. Plus, the price of fuel is going down, but will it stay there? We're going to be discussing
Not that far down.
No, it doesn't feel like it, does
double what it was this time last year.
Yeah.
Anyway, get in touch with us for that. Plus, there's going to be a lot of news, sport and weather and everything else. We'll have a bit of crack too. See you tomorrow from 7.
Bye.